In this video, we're going to complete exercises 10 through 13. They are a little bit more challenging, which is why I separated them into a different video. All right, so number 10, define a function doubler that accepts two integers, start and end, and returns a list of integers of length n, where each consecutive item is double the previous. Begin the list at start. So example, if start is 3 and n equals 5, then the list of 3, 6, 12, 24, and 48 would be returned. So we're just doubling a number n times. So we begin with 3, doubles to 6, then 12, 24, and 48. Okay, so we're going to test our code with the assert statements. So here we have two assert statements, and if they fail, then we will get an error. So let's go ahead and create this def doubler, and we will have two inputs, start and end. Those are our two parameters. And what we're going to do here is just create a list. So we'll just say return list. We'll have a list. And we know the first value is start. So we're going to put that as the first item in our list. So let's go ahead and return this like this, and I know this is wrong. So if we do doubler of, say, 4, 6, I just want to show you how this works with the assert statement. Right now, our answer would be 4, at a one item list of 4. So if we run this, we are going to get an assertion error, and it tells us which line, which one has errored out. So it's the first one over here. So it didn't match that, and so we don't have the right answer yet. All right, so that's just how these assert statements work and can be used to helpful. So you can just test. If you get it wrong, then you know something has to be changed. All right, so we need to iterate through, and we're going to do n iterations, and not actually quite n. We're going to do -1 because we already have the first value in our list. We want the total length to be n, so we're only going to keep adding until, so we want one less, right? So return list, each time we're going to append the start value doubled. Okay, so what we can do here is we can just continually multiply the start value and reassign it to itself, right? So we'll reassign it to itself, and then we can append that value. All right, so let's do this. And so 4, 6, so now it's doubling, and we're just appending that value to the list, and we get the answer. All right, let's check if both of these are correct. If nothing happens, then we know we got the right answer. That's what we're looking for, is just no message. If we do get a message, then something is wrong. All right, let's move on to number 11. Define a function Fibonacci that creates a Fibonacci sequence. A Fibonacci sequence has 1 as the first two items. To get the next number, the previous two numbers are added. So for instance, the first 10 numbers in the Fibonacci sequence are this, right? So to get the next number, you just add the previous two. So 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 2 is 5, 5 plus 3 is 8, and so forth. So have the function accept parameter n, and then return a list of the first n from the Fibonacci sequence. Okay, so we have another assert statement over here. So we're going to say def Fibonacci, and it's going to take an n. And we'll do this again, return list. Now we know the first two are 1, so we'll go ahead and do that. That is given. So we're going to say for I in range n minus 2 this time, since we already have the first two. And then we're just going to simply append to this list. We want to add the previous two values. So let's just do this in its own line. So we'll just use this variable cur for current. I really should just say the next value, but the current value that will be appended. So we're going to get the last item of the list and add it to the item before that. So the last two items. That's what -1 and -2 are. And then we'll just append current like this. So for the first iteration will be 1 plus 1 will be 2. 2 will be appended to the list, so it'll be 1, 1, 2, and then we'll go from there. Then it'll be 2 plus 1 is 3, and then it'll be appended like that. So this should work. Return this return list, and let's add a line over here, and let's go look at this. So here is 20, here is 10, so that looks good. Let's go ahead and run this and test it. Nothing happened, so we know we got this correct. Of course, one note is when you're testing, you don't test all of the cases. That would be great if it could work for every single case. We're just testing one case. But just getting this one case correct is still very powerful. But formal testing requires more cases to be tested. All right, so this is an interesting problem, number 12. We're going to define a function called colats that creates a colats sequence. So a colats sequence begins with any positive integer, so you get to choose where it begins. If the integer is even, then you divide it by 2. That's how you get the next number. If it is odd, then you multiply it by 3 and add 1. So this sequence is also known as the 3x plus 1. It's actually quite interesting. But anyway, so the pattern continues. So for example, if the starting number is 22, then the sequence becomes 22 is even, so divided by 2, and you get 11. 11 is odd, so you multiply by 3 and add 1. You get 34, which is even. Cut it in half. 17 is odd. Go up to 52, which is even. Go down to 26, which is still even. 13 is odd. Gets you up to 40, which is even. 20 is even. 10 is even. 5 is odd. Go up to 16, and then 8, 4, 2, and 1. So the sequence will always come back down to 1, and in particular, it'll once it reaches 1, it'll reach the steady state. It'll go back to 4 because 1 times 3 plus 1 is 4, and then go back to 1. So it'll keep repeating 4, 2, 1, 4, 2, 1, and so forth. So what I want you to do here is have the function accept start. That'll be the single parameter, the starting value of the sequence. And then you return the sequence as a list of integers and just stopping at 1. Okay, so test your code with the cell below. So if we start at 148, then we will get this sequence right here. All right, so this is a little bit more complex one. So here is start. And again, we can have something called return list. And we'll just begin with start like we did with the Fibonacci sequence. And this one doesn't have a set number n that we will run. We're going to go until we get to 1. So we're going to say while start does not equal 1. So we're going to keep going until it equals 1. And so this is a perfect situation for a while loop. So if start is even, so the way we determine if it's even is get the remainder when we divide it by 2. And if it's 0, that means it's even. Then we will say start divided by equals 2. So we're going to divide it by 2 and reassign it to itself. Okay, great. Now, otherwise, we will multiply it by 3 and add 1. So we'll just say, we'll reassign start like this. We'll multiply it by 3 and add 1. The last step here is to just append this new value to the list. Like this. Okay. So it's going to keep going until start reaches 1. And if it does, this will make this false, which will exit out of the while loop. And then we'll just need to return this returned list. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this. Let's do it with 22 first and see if we get the answer. Notice it turns it into floats. So one thing you can do is do integer division. So 2 slashes to get integer division. That way it'll only return integers when it's dividing. So I'll make it nice and neater. Let's look at 148. And it looks like we've got the right answer. So we can run this over here to test it. And nothing happened, so we know we got it right. So again, here is the code that completes it. Let's move on to number 13. So this one is a classic interview exercise. we're going to write a function called degree diff that finds the degree difference between the hour and minute hands on a clock. So we're going to find this degree difference, or angle difference in degrees. Assume the clock is a perfect circle, 360 degrees. The function will accept two arguments, the hour, which will be between 1 and 12, and the minute hand, which will be between 0 and 59. Okay, note this should be the absolute difference. So 180 degrees would be the absolute max possible value. Test your code with the cell below. All right, so this one is actually quite complex, but it's a good exercise. So degree diff. So we're going to be given the hour and minute. So you can see down here, like this would be 1:15. This would be 6 o'clock. This would be 11:05. This would be 12:59 and 3:05. All right. So what we want to do is figure out what is the angle of this hour hand, what is the angle of this minute hand, and then just subtract them and return that value. Okay, so the hour hand is a little bit more difficult to calculate because it depends on the minute hand. Let's go ahead and calculate the minute hand first. So the minute, I'll say the minute degree. Okay, so we're going to calculate what degree is this out of 360. So we're assuming 12 is at 0, and every minute there's 60 minutes in a clock, which means that since there's 360 degrees, if we take the minute and multiply by 6, we will get the minute degree. So this is at 37 past the hour, so 37 times 6 would give us the degree. Just like if it was at 15 past, so 15 times 6 would give us the degree, right? Every minute is 6 degrees. All right, now we do the same thing for the hour. The hour degree, so this one is more complex. So the hour, there's 12 hours in a clock, and you might think, okay, so 12 hours into 360 is 30 degrees. So this is a simple calculation, but this is going to be wrong because the hour is slowly moving towards the next hour as it goes along. So it depends on the minute. So we have to figure out what fraction of an hour exists. So the fraction of an hour exists. So here, let's just take this example, 11:37. So we're 37 minutes into the 11th hour. So that means the hour hand has moved by 37 over 60, right? So there's 60 minutes in an hour. So what we're going to do here is take the minute and divide it by 60. And this gives us the total fraction of the hour. So, we could just do this a little more simply, or just explicitly. So let's just say the hour is 11, or it's 11:37. So the actual, the point where it is not right at 11. The hour is going to be, 11.6, right? It's, 0.61 of the way around to the next hour. So that's 37 minutes. That's what it is right here. So that's why we need this. Now, one more thing that we need is that hour 12 is really hour 0. So one way to do this, a slick way, is to do the remainder with respect to 12. So if it's 1 divided by 12 gives you a remainder of 1. So this doesn't affect anything from 1 to 11. 5 modulus 12, and I can just prove that to you, is still 5. If we get to 12, that means it'll turn it to 0. So 12 divided by 12 is 1 with remainder of 0. So that's how you can fix that little problem. And now we want to subtract them. So you might just think about doing this: minute degree minus hour degree, like this. And if we try to test this, so let's just say at 1:15, that looks correct, right? So it's 52.5. If we look at, say, maybe 3:05, let's just check that one. we get negative 62.5. So that's because at 3:05, the hour degree is past the minute. So we'll get a negative. We don't want a negative here. Let's do an absolute value. So that'll look good. Now, one thing that'll still be bad here is, let's look at, say, 11:05. Okay, so it should be 57.5 degrees, 11:05. And so let's just pretend the hour hand is way over here at 5, so 11:05. So they should be fairly close to one another. But the our function has returned 302.5. It went all the way around, right? So it calculated all of this because the hour hand is somewhere around 330 degrees. The minute hand is right at 30 degrees approximately. So it did that calculation, and it got about a 300 degree difference. Now, the issue here is that we want to calculate the shortest distance, not all the way around. So the idea here is that the largest difference, there's a hint here, it will be 180 degrees. So at like 6 o'clock, right, when it's 6 and the hour's at 6, the minute is at 12. So what we can do here is we'll assign a variable, call this diff. Now, if diff is greater than 180, that means it's impossible, it cannot be more than 180 degrees. We will return 360 minus diff. So we're gonna take the other side of the pie, right? We're going to, instead of calculate all the way around, we're just going to calculate for that piece over there, which is just 360 minus that. Otherwise, we'll just return the difference itself. If it's less than 180, then that means we know it is correct. Okay, so now let's run this, and we'll see that indeed we're down to 57.5 degrees. If we went all the way this way, it was 302.5, but if we went just the other way, it would be 57.5. So we're just using the knowledge that the entire circle is 360. So if it's more than 180, then we know we'll just do the opposite and make that calculation. So that's what this if-else statement does. And now we can test our code, and it works for all of these combinations. All right, so that is number 13 and finishes it up 10 through 13. These were fairly challenging, but hopefully fun to go through them, and could really help you understand the logic of writing your own functions.